Nvidia is about to drop the price on this gaming GPU, AMD's game-changing card is getting close to launch, and Ryzen 10,000 comes with a huge secret. Welcome everyone to Gamer Meld. Okay, it's news time, and first up for today, we know that Nvidia's RTX 5060 Ti is getting close to launch, as I showed in my recent video with this firmmark leak. But we're now starting to get information on pricing, and it actually looks pretty good. As you can see right down here, this story originally came from the Board Channel's forum, but it was also reported by the outlet IT Home, where you can see they claim Nvidia's communicated MSRP figures to its key AIC partners ahead of the mid-April rollout. The entry-level 8GB variant is set in an MSRP that's roughly $379, while the 16GB version carries an MSRP that's about $429. Now, when we compare this to the 4060 Ti and we look at the 8GB model, you can see that the price difference isn't all that much, going from $399 to $379. But the model that is definitely the most interesting, given the fact that I still really don't think the 5060 Ti should even come with an 8GB variant, at $499 for the 16GB 4060 Ti, that is definitely a very nice drop in price, down to $429. So given the fact that this is correct, like I said, that one is definitely interesting, and it's almost certainly caused by AMD's release of the 9000 series, and the fact that the 5060 Ti really doesn't look like much of a boost in performance versus the 4060 Ti, but still, that definitely is a price reduction. Not only that, but there's also some good news if you're worried about these new tariffs, because there's apparently a carve-out for GPUs that will apparently cover gaming cards, though there's potentially other tariffs that may affect it. Either way, at least when it comes to MSRP, Nvidia's next gen could be a decent price. Of course, MSRP doesn't really mean all that much today when they sell out, so prices could easily get absurd anyway. Luckily, there's one place you can go to save a bunch of money on your PC hardware. I'm of course talking about today's sponsor, Micro Center, an actual place you can visit where you can see and touch the hardware you're buying. And they actually have everything. I don't mean a couple motherboards or anything, I'm talking a full wall of motherboards, tons of CPUs, everything. It really is awesome. And they're finally getting close to opening their new store in Santa Clara. So seriously, head down to the link in the description to get a free 128GB flash drive and head to the store when it opens. Once again, it's completely free. Not only that, but they're also having their Apple sales event all month long, which means you get great deals on tons of Apple products from MacBooks to tablets to iMacs and more. And yes, this means they have PCs, PC hardware, as well as Apple. They've seriously got it all. So head down to the description below to get your free 128GB flash drive or to save on Micro Center's Apple sales event. Both of those links are in the description below. And next up for today, it looks like AMD's next foray into market-destroying GPUs is getting extremely close to launch. As you can see right here, it says, finally some movement on the Radeon RX 9060 XT. Gigabyte has registered its upcoming 9060 XT models with the RRA, which means that the launch is now pending, i.e. it's imminent. And in fact, if we move down here, you can see, of course, the 5060 Ti is set to launch sometime next week, while the Radeon doesn't have a release date yet, but some are thinking that it's set to arrive around Computex, which is about a month away, so not long at all. Don't forget that with AMD's massive performance jump in per compute unit or per core performance, the company was able to shrink their GPUs to a huge extent. As you can see here, so we're talking with the 9070 XT, we're talking all the way down to 357mm squared versus the 7900 XT, which don't forget, the 9070 XT actually beats it in most benchmarks, It comes with a die size of 529 millimeters squared. And the reason that's so important is because the bigger the die size gets, the more expensive that GPU is to produce. So given the fact that AMD was able to get better performance with a much smaller die size, and they're able to do that because, we're talking 5,376 cores versus 4,096 cores. And like I said, that's all because you get a drastic performance increase per compute unit, i.e. per core, versus last-gen GPUs. So they were able to shrink it down, and at least if you ask me, that's one of the big reasons AMD is able to sell these GPUs for quite a bit cheaper. And given the fact that the 9060 XT is also set to be built on RDNA 4, they should be able to do this yet again. Of course, that depends on how long stock actually lasts. Fingers crossed on that. And lastly for today, if you remember, I recently went over a leak on AMD's next-gen Zen 6, which ultimately claimed that there were 12-core chiplets leading to a 24-core CPU. But one thing that I didn't discuss was the potential for 2 low-power cores on the I/O die. And I didn't really mention it before just because AMD was rumored to be looking at a 3nm I/O die with those LP cores on it, and a 6nm I/O die without the LP cores. So I wanted to wait until we had more substantial news on it. Plus, the main focus was the X30 chips in that video. Either way, we now have an update thanks to a new video from Moore's Law is Dead, and they're looking more and more real. In it, he actually has information on the performance of these low-power cores, and let's just say it's really interesting. For starters, as you can see, we are looking at Zen 5 LP cores, and what's pretty wild about this is that these are definitely not like Intel's low-power cores. These are pretty wild. For one, just like what we've seen with AMD in the past when it comes to things like low-power cores, this should include SMT or multi-threading. But not only that, as you can see here, according to this someone apparently from AMD, who is the source that he's referring to, the performance simulation that they've seen estimates that Zen 5 LP will have between 65 and 75% the IPC of Zen 5 Classic and 50 to 60% of the frequency. So this is definitely set to be a pretty interesting couple of cores here, and the fact that it's on the I/O die, we could see it doing things like more of the background tasks, stuff like that, as well as, of course, given the fact that these are LP cores, we should see things where you don't really need much performance or anything, especially stuff like when the PC goes into sleep, anything like that. It should take less wattage. And as Moore's Law is Dead says down here, once you consider the inclusion of SMT, this could make most flagship Zen 6 products feel like HEDT chips. Basically, next-gen Zen 6 is set to be even better than what we originally thought. Let's just say Intel is very much in some serious trouble. So while that does it for today, are you pumped for AMD to release their 9060 XT? And what do you think about Zen 6? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to save money at Micro Center down in the description below. And as always, have a great day.